5, and so we'll bring people up to speed as they straggle in. But I do want to respect the time. We have from 5 to 7. This is the beginning of a series of conversations. I will explain more as we go along. Why these conversations have not happened earlier, and what has happened in the process. That will all be explained as part of the story of what goes on and what has been going on. Thank you for coming. This is an informational meeting. My name is Eric Sorensen. I am a chaplain for the hospice. I visited the jail, I visited the prison, I work with law enforcement. I do a lot of the emotional response to negative life events. That's just my job description. I have been in this community for 15 years, doing my best to help people connect to resources to make positive life changes. And so just as a quick introduction, that's who I am. This is, like I said, is the beginning of a series of informational meetings. Next week is going to be the Planning Commission meeting, where they're going to be gathering and they're going to be hearing community information. We're going to be also asking for more time to have more community meetings because the conversation has not been had and we are not ready to move forward. And so when dealing with this kind of an intense scenario, there are two things that I deal with. The first thing is this: what people are afraid we want to do. That's a reality. People are afraid that we want to do something. And what that's going to do is going to negatively impact them, and so they are afraid, and we are hearing that. Over here on the other end is what we actually want to do. I'm against this. I have heard a lot of people that said, we're against this. I'm against this. It doesn't work. I am 100% against what a lot of people are thinking we're wanting to do as part of a permanent supportive housing solution. And so the problem is people might oppose what we actually want to do, thinking that it is what they're afraid we want to do. And so until we deal with this, we're never actually going to get to that. And so I want to start this conversation by dealing with this. As a patient navigator for Lake District Hospital, my job is to help patients overcome the psychological, sociological, spiritual, and any other barrier to a medical plan of care. That medical plan of care may be anything. It may be drug addiction, it may be a psychological issue, it may be congestive heart failure, it may be diabetes. It doesn't matter what the medical condition is. My job is to help people overcome that barrier that is preventing them from achieving health. As such, I have been battling the nature of this problem in Lakeview for over 15 years, not even knowing what the nature of the problem was. The last 7 years, this has been my working environment. So when I talk to you about this, this is not common knowledge. My experience is that most people do not know how all of this works and why we keep experiencing the same problems in Lakeview over and over and over again. All of the negative experiences that were voiced at the town hall meeting are because of this. And this is because we have done nothing to stop this. There are lots of people trying to come up with solutions to this particular problem. And so what I want to begin with is this. This is our community. This is where we live. This is where I live. This is where you live. This is our community with all of the good things that Lakeview is. And has been for generations. It's also the community where we keep having struggles again and again and again and again. This is our community. This is where we begin because this is where we have responsibility to make a difference in our own community. Now, bad news. We got people who use illegal drugs. We got people that are not taking care of their mental health. And we have people that are experiencing traumatic triggers. What that means is they have experienced awfulness in their life, and it is stored as a memory in their brain, and then they experience something today that triggers all of that emotional awfulness. And what that means is today they are experiencing something that they experienced way back in their past, and it is interfering in their life today. Bad news. It's not illegal to have drugs in your system. It is illegal to carry drugs. It's illegal to manufacture drugs. It's illegal to distribute drugs. It's illegal to sell drugs. It's not illegal to have it in your system. That's an Oregon law. And that really sucks. Because people can wander around our streets stoned out of their gourd, and law enforcement can't just arrest them because they have drugs on board. We can't. Can't just lock them up. In order to prosecute someone for drugs, and I'll get to this over here on the other end. This is the problem. The problem is we have to catch them with drugs on their person. We have to catch them doing it. And then when we bring it before the court, it's a misdemeanor most of the time, which means it's a slap on the wrist, which is its own reason. But it's not illegal to have a mental illness. It's not illegal to behave strangely. And I'm sorry that is the case. It's not a crime to have a mental illness. And so someone behaving with a mental illness who's experiencing an altered reality and they come into your life, that's not illegal until they break a law. It is at the point they break a law that we can call 911 and we can have law enforcement come. Or we can report the person as behaving strangely, in which case we call it a welfare check or a safety check. We have law enforcement come and interact with a person that we believe is behaving strangely. At which point, typically, law enforcement will come and they will interact. I love that. And the two big questions: is a person a danger to themselves or others? If they are a danger to themselves or others, we will stop them. Okay? We will. Because they're a danger. And then we will ask the question, are they medically and psychologically safe? It's professional. Doing an assessment. All of our law enforcement can do that. They can assess someone and they can say, is the person a danger to themselves or others? Yes. Are they medically and psychologically safe? Yes. Take them to jail. And we prosecute them because they've broken the law. If they are a danger to themselves or others, and they are not medically or psychologically safe, they bring them to our hospital. This is where I get them. And they bring them to our hospital, and we will start by doing a medical evaluation. where a doctor will say, "Are you safe?" And if necessary, we will do a medical hold while the drugs work out of their system. And we do this. And some drugs take a while to work out of a person's system. And then when they are medically safe, then we call mental health, and mental health comes in. And they will do a mental health evaluation. And if they deem, at that point, that person needs to be held against their will, we remove their rights. We remove their civil rights. That is what a mental health hold is all about. They will begin a mental health investigation that will then go before the judge. And the judge has to sign off because it takes a judge to remove your rights. It takes a judge to remove anyone's rights. And so mental health will do an investigation. They will present the case to the judge. And if the judge says, nope, they do not warrant removing their rights, they go back to the community. If the judge says yes, then we begin a process called placement. We will look across the state of Oregon at all of the mental health facilities, all of the substance use facilities, all of the dual diagnosis, if they got both on board, if that's part of the issue. And we will try to find a place to get them treatment. If treatment is found, we'll get them treatment. And you know what? At the end of that treatment, guess where they go? Back to our community. If we are unable to find placement, and I will tell you the truth, we have a specialist who does very little other than finding placement for people, and she's good. There are not enough places in Oregon for all of the people that need mental health treatment. It's just a fact. And a lot of places say, I'm sorry, no. And we have held people in a mental health hold while we've looked for that placement for months. And then, if we can't find a placement, guess where they go? Back to our community. Here's the other problem. If they're a danger to themselves or others and they're medically and psychologically safe, they go to jail. But if the person has a known mental illness, current policy is jail is not the right place for someone with a mental illness. Let them go. The DA knows he is not going to win a case if a person has a mental illness and they do break the law. And so what happens? They get arrested, they go to jail, they are released from jail, back to the community, they break the law, they go back to jail, they have a known mental illness, they get released back to the community again and again and again and again. I'm sorry. This is a discouraging work environment, by the way. This is what I live with. This is my job. If, however, they do get held in jail, and we send them to prison, the DOC policy is that if a person comes from a community and goes to prison, the DOC policy is when that person has served their time, they go back to their community. Every scenario ends up back in the community. This is the problem that I have been working with for 7 years now. 7 years, and it's only getting worse. At the town hall meeting, I heard several people who said, Lakeview is getting worse. The situation is getting worse. If you think that it's worse now, what's going to happen in the future? What do you predict if we don't change anything about this particular scenario? The idea is it will continue to get worse if we don't do something about it. And so in this, where do we intervene to make a difference in people's lives? Now, what a lot of people are afraid of in our community is that we are going to attempt to intervene here. That we're going to have a shelter, or we're going to have just open door housing for people who are using drugs, for people who are doing bad things, who have mental illness, that we're just going to put them all together in some sort of psychosocial mosh pit. Let's just throw them all together and see what happens. That is not helpful. That is not a solution. That's dumb. I don't like that. And if someone is opposed to that, good. You should be. Place we want to intervene. Right there. Right there. After they have been stabilized, after they have been working with some of our partner agencies, after they have gotten their work through, they are now safe, stable, and what they need is a place to live while they do the work of changing their lives. Afterwards, doing it here doesn't change a thing. I've been around shelters. I've been around treatment facilities. I've been around halfway houses. I've been around a lot of things that don't work. I've been around places that did not have proper accountability. I have been around places that didn't have proper authority, didn't have places that had security to protect people and protect communities. That is not what I want to do. Permanent supportive housing is an evidence-based practice that is designed to intervene in the lives of people, to do three things. One, provide them safety. If you don't know where you're going to sleep, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you don't know how you're going to make it through the night, you're not safe. If someone else is in control of your life, you're not safe. Nobody feels safe with someone else in control of their life. Number two, permanent supportive housing provides stability. The idea is regular schedule, regular intervention, regular accountability, regular engagement with on-site case management designed to regularly create stability in someone else's life. They are already working with our partner agencies. By partner agencies, we get referrals from the VA, veterans that are homeless. We get referrals from DHS. We get referrals from parole and probation, people that have individuals that can succeed but are currently homeless, and they are caught in this cycle. I like the idea of actually stabilizing people. And the third thing the permanent supportive housing does is it provides support. On-site case management that talks to them every day. On-site case management that if they have a question, they get answers. If you have a question, you get answers. You have an issue, you have someone to go to. You want to know what you currently have? You have a cycle where people are going through this again and again and again, and you have no protection. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep doing it. They're not going to stop. It's going to keep going. And I do like that people brought up their kids and their grandkids. I'll get to the questions in a bit.
Oh, I have a question that just
Okay.
to that. I don't think that necessarily people are against the idea of this
I'm gonna get to that too.
permanent housing
Yes, it's the location. I'm gonna get to that too.
Okay,
I wanna get to that too.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't get ahead of the story. Until we deal with the problem, then you're not, the idea is we're not even gonna address the real thing. But part of the answer to that is when we're working with people, they are not the monsters that people are afraid of. When people think what people were describing on Tuesday at the town hall meeting, were these. Not stable, not supported, not safe. That's what people were describing. And if we do nothing, expect that's what you're going to deal with for the next 5 to 7 years. I'll get to why 5 to 7 years is an important number. 5 to 7 years from now, your kids are going to be dealing with this. Your grandkids are going to be dealing with this. They're already dealing with it. It's not going to get better. It's not going to change. Like I said, I've been dealing with this for 15 years. And while I do hear a lot of concern, I've not heard any solutions from our community. I will work with anybody, and I have proven that again and again and again. That if someone has a solution that's not illegal, someone told me today we should just round them up and shoot them all. Send them over to my house so they can trespass and I can shoot them. Someone actually said that to me. That was in the last 2 hours. Yes, that's real. I hear that. That's actually not the first time I've heard something like that. I hear it regularly. Sending them out of our community. Let's just get rid of those people. Well, unfortunately, even if placement is found, the insurance company that pays for them to receive mental health counseling has a policy that once they are done with their mental health counseling, they come right back to the community. And they have no place to go. I got an email this morning. We got 3 people coming back from rehab. All 3 of them are homeless. Drug rehab. Golly, do you have a solution for that? They're stabilized. They've been working on their counseling. They've got connections here. They're ready to change their lives. And they're homeless. How long do you think they're going to last?
Why aren't they staying with their connections?
They don't have those kind of connections. They have connections with parole and probation. They have connections at DHS. They have connections with mental health. They have connections with the people that are providing services to them. What they don't have is someone who will open up their door and say, come live with me. Unfortunately, that's the environment they come from. If we want different for people, there's got to be different available for people. That's part of the problem. Now, that's the nature of the problem. And like I said, a lot of people complain about it. I've not heard any solutions. And so the idea is, what I've been working on, is I got wind of a program that is 75% successful across the board in the United States since 1985 at ending homelessness, reducing crime rate, reducing drug addiction, reducing medical stays in the ER. It is 75% effective across the board. Why now? The state of Oregon Housing and Community Services got money, $53 million set aside for just permanent supportive housing. $53 million because the state of Oregon knows that permanent supportive housing is evidence-based, it works across the United States, and it is a good investment. A lot of people here complain about government wasting money. The government would like to do something that works. Take an old building that is not going to be used for anything else, remodel it, and something that is going to be life-changing for people, and we're going to end 75% of the homelessness in our town. We're going to reduce drug addiction. We're going to reduce going back to jail and getting back in this cycle. We're going to deal with our problems. That's possible. Why now? We got wind of this just the beginning of last year. Oregon Housing Community Services said, you want priority for this funding, you have to attend 6 months of training. Right around that time, Ross and Kelly McGarva, the landowners of the Lakeview Lockers, contacted us and said, we got an old building, we want to help people, we want to better the community. And so Ross and I and Diana Otero of Klamath Housing Authority got together and we went through 6 months of training, all on this. How does this work? How does it work? And that's what the rest of the talks will be about. Why does it work? How does it work? Why here? The problem of location. Like I said, 15 years of working to try and find a solution to this problem. Do you want to know how many landowners want to have a solution to this problem? In 15 years. 1. I would work with anybody. You find me a landowner that wants to fix this problem, I'll work with them. And in 15 years in this community, we've had 1 step forward. That's it. People think I had 7 different options and I decided, let's ruin this community. Let's ruin this neighborhood.
Are they gonna stay in the community?
Yes.
No.
They're going to get jobs. What?
No.
Oh, Ross Kelly.
Yeah.
Actually, they've got a different life now.
Yeah.
So,
So
Billy's gonna be
So
here.
we own a house on the west side. We own 2 rental houses in Lakeview. We just bought another property in Lakeview. I'm not quite sure why the fixation is on us, but I'm glad to talk to you about it anytime.
Yeah.
We have to make a living too.
Mhm.
So this
I'm
is
not
for
against
profit.
people making a living, so the idea is, without getting personal in this, but the idea is I've had 1 landowner. That's just a fact. Why I have, I'll get a second. I'll open it up to questions just a second. What's the hurry? The hurry is that $50 million, 32 million of it is already gone. We missed the first round of funding. The next round of funding is the last one. We have a shot. I asked for $3.25 million to do what needs to be done and get this up and running for the first year. That funding opportunity becomes available in December. Someone wants a better solution. We have until December. You do nothing, I do nothing, we do nothing. That problem stays the same. And because of coronavirus, the economy and the budget of Oregon State is shattered. They are expecting that it's going to take 5 to 7 years to repair the budget to make an opportunity like this come open again. 5 to 7 years from now, before we have a different opportunity to have a solution to a problem I've been working on for 15 years. Yes, I'm very excited about this. Yes, I've done the research. Yes, I have a degree in it. Trauma, emotional care, emotional response. psychology. I have that education to know what works and what doesn't. This does work. One of the big questions was about property values. I have research on property values. You want to know, since 1985, what the average impact on property values within 500 feet of a permanent supportive housing is? 0. It's not going to change your property values, according to the research. You can say, I don't believe it. Well, then read the research. You don't believe it? Argue with the researchers, but the researchers consistently say property values remain the same. The researchers consistently say crime rates go down, jail time goes down, recidivism goes down, prison time goes down, cost goes down, ER visits go down because of permanent supportive housing, not because of homeless shelters, rehabs, flop houses, I don't know what else you want to call them, the other things that don't work. Permanent supportive housing does work. And I will explain in the next community meeting how it works, step by step, and why it works step by step. But the idea is, we have until December to make a decision that is going to impact us or not impact us. People can complain for the next 5 to 7 years. That's okay. We've done a whole bunch of nothing but complain for the last 15 years. And the situation keeps getting worse. I don't know. I'm willing to keep working on it. I'm willing to work with anybody. You got a solution for me? I'll work with it. I'll give it all I got till December. But I have to have a working problem solved to have that done by December. There isn't another place. Can I reasonably guarantee your safety? Yes, the research does. Can I reasonably guarantee that your lives are going to be the same as they are now? Probably better, because you'll actually be dealing with your problems instead of just dealing with the people that keep showing up day after day after day. You've got no security now. And your kids won't have security either. We do nothing means it's going to get worse. I believe that. You don't have to, but you don't also do what I do either. Sorry. So that's the first talk. And now I want to open it up to questions. So let's go ahead. Let's start. 1.
Is it only going to be open to local people?
Yes.
So they will not ship people in from out of town?
Yes, they will.
And so, the irony here, we've been shipping our problems to other people
Yeah.
for years now.
Yeah.
The irony says that, yes, they have been shipping their problems to us. They have.
Yeah.
This is from our partner agencies. So first off, these are our people. Now, when I say that, I mean our mental health, our recovery, our parole and probation, our VA, ours. These are our people. They get priority. Now, you want to talk to a law enforcement officer? Do they have people that would benefit from stability and safety and support? Yes. How long does anyone believe it'll take for us to run out of our own problems? And then we'll open it up to other people's problems. These are ours. They're going to be ours. They aren't going anywhere. Even if they go to prison, they're coming back here. Sorry. Yeah, so it's ours. And it's our partner agencies. Yeah.
On
There you
that
go.
same question,
Yes.
I just want to follow up. When you say our community or our problem,
Yes.
can you delineate for us how many people in Lakeview versus North Lake we're talking about? Because I think there's a lot of mental illness in North Lake that might be included in this hour.
Yes.
This is a Lakeview issue right now because we are concerned about the housing in coming to Lakeview, not maybe Lake
Right.
County.
Right.
However, Lake County, we're all concerned about that too because our tax dollars
Right.
are in Lake County. So can you tell us the numbers in North Lake versus Lakeview?
That's one that Christie has, because it has the breakdown of our homelessness. So when we talk homelessness, these are the ones that are currently caught in this cycle over and over and over again. There is a breakdown. There are more in Lakeview than there are in North Lake. The reason is North Lake people are, unfortunately, the social situation is different. It's a different dynamic. Will we get some of their problems? They're part of Lake County. We don't get to differentiate between Lake County North and Lake County Lakeview. Just like we can't differentiate between Lake County Lakeview and West Side. I mean, there's people that do think that they're different worlds. We're all Lake County. And so when we're having a solution, it's for Lake County. We're going to deal with our people. The difference is they're all going to be here, not here. That's the big difference. Not the unstable, not the one, but the ones that are already working with our partner agencies that do have that regular contact. So yes, there is going to be some. We're going to have a screening process. We're going to have that. We're going to take our low-hanging fruit first, the greatest successes, the ones that we want to succeed first, the ones that we believe are going to succeed best, and we're going to take them first because we build on success. So it is going to be targeting the lowest hanging fruit. Lori?
So how long are they gonna be housed in one of these rooms that?
That's the question. So the return question is, how long does it take for someone to deal with their internal issues and the root causes of why they've been doing drugs, or the root causes of their mental illness? How long does it take?
Can take forever.
It can. Some people are going to be great. In fact, in New York City, I was reading one study on this, the average stay was 6 to 8 months, not because they dropped out or they reoffended, but because they found a better place. They got their lives straightened together, they got their lives put back together, and they got to where I want a better place, and they bought homes, or they got apartments, they had jobs, and they got their lives stable again. And then they moved out. This is a safe place for people to engage their long-term problems with that support.
Okay, but along with that,
Yeah.
because I've been in social work for a long time.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So we know that when people get out of prison, family members from other states,
Good.
they move here, or while they're in prison, so then we have groups that move here.
I would counter that with saying DOC policy and DOC practice is people do not come back to the place that, well, okay, let me say this again. If they were picked up in Portland and they're serving their time at Warner Creek, when they get done, they go back to Portland. Their family's in Portland. They don't move to Lakeview because, gosh, it was a great time at Warner Creek Correctional Facility. That's really not been historical. As far as, has it happened? Yeah, I think it has happened. In my knowledge of being a volunteer out there, twice. So, twice out of the 10 years I've been a volunteer at Warner Creek Correctional Facility. It does happen, but twice out of 400
We've
inmates.
had lots of people move to Lakeview.
Mostly, again, law enforcement, but typically not the DOC. Yes.
I just wanted to correct that statement. My husband works out at DOC
Uh-huh.
and the inmates have unique access to Lake County. They are allowed to check us out on the internet, they get our papers, they get everything. And it is common knowledge out there that once they get shipped back to Portland and they hit their parole marks and they do whatever, it's great to get back to Lakeview because of our economy here. They are not required to follow through on terms of their parole. So getting a job in an amount of time, getting housing in an amount of time, all of these requirements are not here available to them. But if they come here, then they are a burden on our community. And for them, it's a great situation.
And
But you can't tell me that is a rehab person. That's a user.
Yeah.
That's the guy who came through prison and treatment
before we get into that, because again, the idea is, those are users. They're going to be users, they're not interested in changing their lives.
How do you delineate? How do you?
That's a screening process.
Same person comes through your cycle.
The same person comes through the cycle, and this is where we are,
Same access to the same.
they have the same access, but it's not the same access because they're working with our partner
How
agencies.
can you tell me that?
I can tell you that because I work with parole and probation, I work with law enforcement, I
The
work.
structure of your system is gonna say, yes, for certain, this is the way we're gonna do this.
That's a future meeting, yeah, it is gonna be a future meeting. I am going to show through the process of how we screen people and what the services offered are. But for people who want to change their lives, yes, I wanna have something in place for them to change their lives. Right now, we've got nothing. We got nothing.
Eric, we do have opportunities for people to change their lives.
What do we have?
We offer housing assistance throughout this country. We've got HUD, we've got VA support, we've got all this housing support. So you can.
What's the waiting list for HUD? What's the waiting
Eric,
list?
there's openings right now. I just looked it up today, and I can tell you, the Section 8 waiting lists that are open, there's 13 there's 13 here with more than 15, 17, 18, 19, probably 20 counties that have.
20 counties, Lake County.
Lake County is combined with Klamath County on the
Oh,
on the
okay.
HUD list.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying is, we have housing support, we have mental health support. The people that are in this permanent housing are not required to access those services. So neither are HUD supported housing assistance
Right.
people. I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference in the requirement for them to access the service.
it's not the requirement for the access of the service, it is the engagement of the process in the service. The idea is you have the freedom, like a human being, to choose.
Except for the.
If I take away your choice, you have no freedom. And therefore, the changes that you're going to make are going to be very limited and usually based on what someone else is in control of your life for. That's just basic psychology. But the idea is, you want people to change positively, you give them the choice to change. Choice is a huge factor in safety.
But where does our choice come in?
Exactly.
We've got people that have access to the system and they may not choose to use it. I like the idea, if you're going to survive on dollars from the public, you need to meet certain criteria. You need to meet this goal, you need to get off your drugs, you need to stay clean, and then you can continue to have that support. Otherwise, we get people on our government support system, paid for by you, me, everybody in this room, and they don't get off it.
It's real easy to stay
Make them
on.
accountable.
It's too easy
That's
to
the
stay
great
on
thing
that
about HUD.
Yeah.
When you have somebody call and explain HUD to you,
Mhm.
they actually said to me one time, I said, well, how long does HUD last? Oh, that's the best part, it never ends.
Mhm.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yes, that's
So you're gonna keep taking my tax dollars until you die, rather than do a
And that has
job?
been shown not to change lives, unfortunately.
How would this,
Research.
if this fills, what's the solution to the problem again? Do you build another one?
No, this is one and done.
But we'll have it, if it's full and people are using it and exploiting it to its fullest, it will get full. And then we're faced with the same situation all over again.
And that's part of the on-site case management that I don't think that people are understanding is that when you're face to face with someone in your house, in your environment, every day checking in with you, you have relational accountability. You don't escape just because you want to use the system. The idea is we are continually engaging someone in this process. It is designed to encourage, but not mandate,
Right.
to give them the choice.
Right here in the little homeless in Oregon policies and statistics for March 2019,
Okay?
60% of the homeless in the state of Oregon is voluntary because they don't like rules. They don't like, they don't want guidelines. They wanna live and let live. That's why they choose to live like they do. This is a program with no rules to counter that population. Correct?
That's not true.
Explain it to me then. It's what it says right here.
I know that's what it says right there, and again, I would challenge that again by
It's a state of Oregon.
I know, it's a great state report, Let's hear it for the state. The idea is,
You just don't agree with it.
no, actually, I do agree with some of it. Now, the idea is, when you ask people why they're homeless, do they make a choice? Now, in my experience, this again is experience, I don't find homeless people that are happy about being homeless, about not knowing where their next meal is coming from, where they're gonna sleep tomorrow night. I don't find that they're making a choice.
So if they had food
They like to live
and
like
water and shelter,
I don't find them that way.
Not all
And
of them
again,
do.
some do, I'll give you some do, I'll give you some do.
70%.
And again, that's a state questionnaire, that is not necessarily their actual
But
answer.
this is just as subjective a fact sheet
Of
as
course.
you're trying to push on us with this has no recourse, this is great opportunity. This is a huge success rate. No, those are built by people who are pushing it. They even, your program teaches you how to sell this, correct?
No, well,
Part of your
Yeah.
webinars,
Yeah,
part of your
yes,
webinars,
it does.
Yeah.
they
it does.
teach you how to sell this to a community.
Yeah, actually it
So-
does.
If you wanna go tit for tat on semantics, I got the state of Oregon, and this is what they say.
I'll take that, I think I hit.
I have a question on that. Is that for transient population or is that for people who are in the same location homeless?
The biggest reviews are Multnomah County because that's the biggest homeless population. But this is homelessness in Oregon, a review of trends, causes, and policy options, March 2020, Oregon.gov.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I have two questions.
Okay, good.
So the first one is, do you guys, do you guys have people here that that are perfect candidates to go into the permanent house?
Yes.
Would they maybe possibly, he or she or they be open to coming in and talking to us so we can put a face to it to see where they're at in their program, where, like, why and where they're at and how they became that way and
That's a good,
why
that's actually a very valid thing. Let me say, for someone to make themselves vulnerable to the variety of anger
True.
is asking an awful lot of someone who has experienced trauma. And they've been told, I don't want you near me, I don't want you in my neighborhood, I don't want anything to do with you, and I'm tired of paying for you. And so then we're asking them to come forward, identify themselves, and then subject themselves to an interrogation by the group. I'm not gonna suggest that, I would offer that, I will. I'll ask the people that I would say would be good candidates. They might be surprised.
They might step up if they really want help.
If they really want help. And again, getting back to your choice, the idea of do we have a choice? Yes. You have a choice to vote this down. You will have another empty building in Lakeview.
I don't think anybody wants to vote it down.
No, it'll be
How
don't have
long,
an
how long
option.
have you known about the money of being available?
approximately 1 year, maybe.
How many people in Lakeview knew that you had the money available?
Well, they didn't know they had it available till they
Yeah,
accomplished.
Until we accomplished it. We had to go through the class first. We knew the money was coming.
So you went with your first
If you
option.
had known around Lake County that you had the money available, do you think that somebody else might have stepped up?
My neighbor was approached,
15
he
years.
talked to me and said he was approached, he has the old Victorian on 9th and H. And he was approached by Climate Housing to have his home, and that was last August, to have his home be a rehab facility. And he was offered a large amount of money, which he told me the amount, and he declined it, he said absolutely not.
Absolutely not, yeah.
He's got 2 little girls. He's like, no.
That's my normal experience. Lakeview is pretty consistent in this.
So
The way I'm
it's
seeing
going, it's
Most
gonna
of us
keep
found
being
out about it, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. Part of that reason.
And you
is
expect us to agree?
No, I'm not. I'm expecting you to listen. I'm expecting you to ask
I am
questions.
listening.
I'm expecting you to learn,
I
but you don't have
still
to.
live next door.
Yes.
That's
I know.
condescending and not very nice. Just saying.
I'm sorry, I didn't think I wasn't being nice. I will expect people to be open-minded and to listen. You don't have to agree. I'm okay with not agreeing.
I think this is all gonna happen. It's all gonna happen. I foresee it's gonna happen. It's just where it's gonna happen at. But I foresee it
You
happening.
need to understand, I have a 30-year-old bipolar child that lives in my house. I am not opposed to helping somebody. I could have shipped her off years ago to live in something like this.
Why
But I live with her on a daily basis. So I'm not opposed to helping somebody.
Okay.
But do I want 15 to 18 more living right next door to me?
Are they all gonna be like, no? And again, they're not gonna be unstable
It
either.
doesn't
They're
necessarily
all
have
going
to
to
be
be
together.
unstable. They're all gonna be having
They're all gonna have,
issues. They're all gonna have
history.
traumatic triggers. They're all gonna have.
yes, they're all gonna have it, but we're gonna have the oversight and we're already gonna be dealing with those triggers.
I have an alcoholic sister. So I know what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to help people. I have helped people all my life. But putting that many of those in a small confined area, that I have an issue with, and it being right next door to my house.
You had a second question, and then I'll get to mine, and then I'll get to you.
So,
Second question.
but you're gonna be helping people potentially coming out of Warner Street, right?
Those that come from Lakeview, yes.
Okay, because I was kind of looking into that, and that goes back to like what I brought up earlier in the last meeting. And they have a very high rate of sex offenders that are out on their street that come back.
It is a
in.
minimum security.
Yeah.
Sex
So
offenders,
is that-
because of the limitations of their parole and probation, won't be appropriate for this.
Okay,
It's a
so,
limitation, they can't.
so.
Same thing with violent offenders, that because of the limits of their parole and probation, they can't be there.
Well, that's a good thing, should have said that to start off.
Not even,
That's a parole and probation.
so there won't be any violent offenders or sex
I
offenders.
can't, well, there won't be any sex offenders because they can't be. Violent offenders, it depends on how you differentiate what's a violent crime. The levels, they do levels.
Okay, and then with, because again, my husband and I are looking into property around here in Julia's, and you were looking into like the jobs that are available here.
So the jobs,
Yeah,
okay, I just didn't hear you correctly.
sorry.
That's all right, that's all right.
So what, there doesn't seem to be a lot of jobs here as it is.
True.
So how is that gonna work with supporting housing, with getting help and assisting them get jobs or get a trade of some sort? It doesn't really seem like there's a lot of job opportunity for people that are truly looking already.
Right. That is and is not all the whole story. There are jobs available. A lot of the time, it's because they can't get that job because of their drug use or their criminal background check, and so those sorts of things. There are types of jobs that could be found, and we can create those. And so there are options that we have history working with in peer support specialists in other places as well. There's structures in place to help find that solution, yes.
Can you speak to how the tenants are expected to pay or participate in?
Sure. Now, the structure of a permanent supported housing facility is that a tenant pays no more than 30% of their income. The idea is, yes, they pay. They're going to pay, but they pay 30% of their income. As their income goes up, then they pay more. The idea is they do pay. What we do is we make it affordable by supplementing that with dollars from the state, Oregon Housing and Community Services, so that they have the stability to actually be a part of this community.
And through that.
And through HUD. So, the Oregon Housing and Community Services channels of funding, where they come from is a lot of different places. And this is where Klamath Housing Authority does have the experience for how they participate. Now, as far as accountability, they are held accountable to the lease, which is behavioral. The idea is you can't create problems for your neighbors like any other lease. You can't be playing your music all night long like any other lease. You can't cause damage like any other lease. This is a lease agreement that is held accountable. They're held accountable to the lease, not to the treatment program, not to the specifics of the, you have to be participating in this, this, and this. You have to be doing these things. They are held accountable to the lease, which is behavioral. And so with that, that's where we hold them accountable. Yes?
My question is the eviction process, because you may have a lease,
Mhm.
you know, that says you can't play music, or can't have pets, or
Yes.
can't damage things. But it takes a long time to evict somebody, even if they're
That
not
is true.
following the lease.
And this permanent supportive housing works very hard to not evict. The idea is you work with them to correct the behavior. This is where the difference is, you're a landowner, you have a lease with someone, you're there, occasionally. With permanent supportive housing, a case manager is there daily. And they're facing them every day. They are working with them saying, we're getting these reports about you, we need to change this behavior. We need to do this daily, every day. It is not the same kind of process as trying to evict someone. It is engagement, 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 face to face. Not, I have a legal paper, we sign an eviction notice, we put it on the door, now get out. That's not the same kind of process. This is very interactive.
And what happens if the interaction doesn't work?
If the interaction doesn't work, they fail out of the system. There is a portion of residents in permanent supportive housing that fail out of the system. And they go back to the cycle, and they come back around. And they experience the consequences of their choices. The idea is I'm not against consequences. Consequences motivate behavioral change. Hope is what keeps people from giving up. Yes?
So where's the paperwork on the entire plan so that we can avoid some of the questions? Because if we just had the paperwork to read, then we could come with questions, like we need the whole plan. How much it's gonna cost for each person, how many people are allowed, what are the requirements, like, if we just had the whole plan in front of us, we could avoid some of this.
Well, the whole plan is being worked on.
Well, we wouldn't
We
have
have,
all these questions,
what I
if we had the
have,
whole plan in front of us.
I
Then we
have
would be able to.
information.
This is general information, I want specific information for this specific place. I want all the information to know exactly how the plan is working. What qualifies a person to be in, what qualifies a person to be out, how many strikes against them will they get to have before they get kicked out because their behavior is not appropriate. There are a lot of things to go into this, and like, I just give me the plan, I'll read through it, and then I'll ask very specific questions because then I know what it is. It seems very vague, because you're just telling us information, but yet we don't have real paperwork. What is the real plan?
I can get you from other facilities.
No, I want this facility.
We
Other
don't
facilities
have
don't matter.
this facility. We are working
Yeah.
out
That's
with
part of our
this.
problem,
That's our problem.
is that there is no set plan yet.
We're asked to accept this.
Mhm.
We've been asked, hey, this is a great deal, please accept this.
Mhm.
There's no structure, there's no framework, we don't know what we're accepting.
I can get you the structure.
How do we know this isn't gonna change? How do we know this isn't gonna be a business venture, 3 years from now, we'll fill it with whatever we want? This is all great conceptually, but
And OHCS mandates that if we do this, it's 30 years, not 3. 30 years is the guarantee for the grant. We build this, it's 30 years of this program.
That's what I mean, still need the plan.
Can you explain that? I think part of the question is, can you explain, the grant money will do what? How
Well,
long will it last? What is funded by the taxpayers? What is funded by the grant? We don't know where the money is really coming from for this long term.
well, the first part of it, okay, so you're gonna look at 3 different phases. One is construction. That money, OHCS, the grant that I'm asking 3 1/4. That part's gonna build it, staff it, and get it operational for the first year. All right? Once that is done, Klamath Housing is going to operate the facility, and they've been doing this as a structure. They do it with veterans, they do it with mental health, they do it with rehabs, they do it in other places over there. And they're going to do all of that kind of work only all in one spot. So it's the same kind of funding that comes from Gobi, that comes from Oregon Housing Authority, comes from veterans, comes from those different organizations all fund this on the operational basis. That's the operational of the regular thing. That's how people get their rent paid, and out of that rent payment, that's what goes to facility management, case management, those sorts of things. The third component is in the service provision. The difference is the service provision component, we're already in our partner agencies treating these people. The ones that we're gonna be targeting, the ones that we're gonna be working with, we're already got case management on them. We're gonna be adding a centralized case manager in the building. And a peer support specialist. Both of those positions are funded through OHCS. And there is no time limit for those. They're not planning on drawing that funding. So those are both funded positions. So between the rent payment, which is going to be subsidized by apartment unit, not by person, there's vouchers. So the voucher for the unit, that gets paid at a certain rate. Then based on the service provision, we also do the service provision part of it.
So I just want to summarize so I understand.
So, yeah.
The grant money, the 3.25 that
Yeah,
you're asking for, will build it and keep it operational for 1 year.
For the first year, yes.
Is that correct? Then the ongoing support
Mhm.
will come from, I guess, the tax
Rent
base.
subsidies, yes.
The grant subsidies or tax base?
No, rent subsidies from OHCS, that's your
I don't know what
state
OHCS
tax dollars.
OHCS.
Oregon Housing and Community Services. It used to be called Oregon Housing Authority.
Yeah.
But it's now OHCS, they changed their name again. Oregon Housing Authority, OHCS, they're the ones that are funding this program and rent subsidizing, that sort of thing, that's rent subsidy.
So that's taxes.
That's tax dollars, that's
And then
government money,
The
yes.
third portion was
The service.
the services, so if they need mental health, they will go see their mental health provider and their insurance or this.
Right, yeah.
Is that correct?
As it currently is.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I understood.
So it is all government money, but through various channels. It's less government money because we're avoiding a lot of those issues that come from the homelessness component. Yes?
I want you, please, to explain to me how, my understanding is there's a Brownsfield grant to clean up by the EPA to clean up the property.
No.
You put
No.
that's in your thing about
We had
what
to
stage
pass
of brownfield you're in.
Right, but we had to pass that in order to make sure that it wasn't a hazardous property. We had to pass a Brownsfield inspection.
And did you pass it?
Yes.
So there's no EPA money coming? Does anybody else in the neighborhood have to worry about a Brownsfield inspection? Considering if it was a slaughterhouse, it actually was a bigger property
If we had
than a private
failed,
property?
yeah, if we had failed, then yes, it would have radiated out from there. So like buried fuel tanks,
Right.
hazardous
Right.
spills. The only concern in that building was Freon. And yeah, and the report's available, you're welcome to see it. It was just something that we actually dove into that piece of it before we ever looked at this option, because we needed to know what are we faced with when we have to tear this down. And
But you're retaining ownership.
that one I can't,
Part ownership.
Part ownership.
I really can't answer
Well,
it.
sure you can, because you're gonna profit from it, and then we wanna know who's liable.
There's very little profit in this, and I was been sitting
Kind
here.
of tired.
You were,
So-
you're gonna be the contractor, you said
No,
so.
I am
he's
not the
not.
contractor.
He's
I
not the
am the
contractor,
from your
he's not the
main-
property management, he's nothing.
So,
Your May meeting, I have it recorded, where you stated There wasn't the town in Lakeview, that you were going to do the construction yourself.
That was
That was the
that was
difference.
the decision.
When?
Yes.
What did I say?
That was the May 27th meeting of your organization. You have another one tomorrow or Thursday?
No.
Yeah, it was on
I've
Zoom.
never said I was gonna be the contractor on this.
You never said what?
I'm the property owner, that's all my part is. There is, the hospital actually has a grant in place for a project manager, which will expire if this doesn't move along.
Right, and that's what you guys are short from getting your funding through the state right now, is the
One of them, yes.
we're
not shovel ready.
administrator,
One
because that was also stated in that meeting.
One thing that's short, yes.
Yep.
The other thing is we didn't have planning business yet. That we started in on that in December. And because we were in the middle of taking these classes, I couldn't explain to Janine exactly what the thing was. I couldn't explain it, Eric's done an excellent job to explaining part of it, I mean, like he's saying, we'll go through more of it. This is where we're at. We got this building back in an unusable condition.
That's not our fault. You guys
Don't.
rented it out.
It's,
Just
yeah,
don't go there.
don't go there?
No.
All right.
It's not our community's fault. We all have
No,
that
it's
risk.
not your
But you have a
but there's
choice,
a
and I have
consequence
a
if you-
communication that I
The
would like to
consequences is you're threatening to not do anything with the building.
No, it
That
absolutely is not a threat.
You said that on Facebook.
It's not a threat. It is the reality. And the reason they didn't want me to say that to you, because it feels like a threat, okay? So the reality of the situation is this is what Lakeview Lockers used to look like. We refurbished this, okay? We ran a profitable business out of this location, and I think it was beautiful. It can't be resurrected. It's gone, okay? Cost me $175,000 to purchase it, cost me $130,000 to rehab it, and it's destroyed. I have no insurance on the property, there will not be any, I'm not gonna get rich, if that's what you're worried about, it's not happening.
You just said earlier that you had to make a living, but you have to do it on the back of the neighborhood.
No, actually, we're leaving to take a
We're
job,
leaving
is that
to
what
We're
take
you're
not
a
talking
talking
about?
about you, we're talking about us.
Oh,
can't
yeah,
have
well,
rentals.
keep changing it, because just a
Who said
minute you
that?
asked me about me.
You said you have to make a profit.
So, this is the building as it exists right now, and it's in a constant state of disrepair. I've towed 2 vehicles away from it, we've had existing, ongoing vandalism from the property. This is what we were faced with when we sat in front and went, what are we gonna do with this building? What are we gonna do with
Are
it?
we gonna tear it down and build it up?
What are we gonna do with this building? This belongs to us, it's private property, we sat out front and went, what are we gonna do with it? And the first thing we thought of was housing. It just made sense to us, we looked around, we know the need. So before we ever knew that the hospital had an issue with with supported housing, this is what we proposed. This was something we thought we could fund ourselves. It would be 8 one-bedroom apartments and they would be HUD approved. There would be no on-site housing, there would be low rents and frequent turnover. Okay? No supervision.
That's 8 units, right?
8 units, okay? Same people, those people that we're all talking about, okay? This is what therapeutic, she has a name. The architect that designed this, designed a structure that specializes in trauma-informed care. This structure houses a similar number of people, has on-site care. He's walked you through all of this several times. This has on-site care. This is a beautiful, well-maintained facility. This isn't bad. It's about all I can afford to do. There will be no on-site management, and it will be the same people coming through the system housed in this structure. This will have the same people coming through the system housed in this structure, but they have support. And they have somebody giving them oversight. At the end of the day, the choice that we have as a community is, well, actually, let me go back and ask a question. Multifamily rezoning to this, did anybody have a problem with it? Did anybody have a problem with this concept? Did anybody have a problem with rezoning the Lockers property from commercial grandfathered into residential to multifamily?
We did,
Okay,
yes.
so because it's people cycling through, would that be your
That had
objection?
nothing to do with that.
What would it be?
I did not want it rezoned. there's acreage in Lakeview specifically for multifamily, and I felt that this should either stay commercial or it gets turned residential.
Okay,
That's it, I never
and you'll
wanted
need to
multifamily.
take that complaint to the town because there's 13 acres.
Oh, and that's what I did at
Right.
the town council,
Okay.
was I believe that they should not rezone, period, end of story.
Okay, but that's not gonna happen.
Right.
Okay, as a private property owner, I'm pursuing this,
Liberty Act,
okay?
yes, and
I'm pursuing this as a private property owner.
Are they gonna remodel the locker, is that what they're doing?
The intent is to remodel as much as we can. The damage is pretty extreme to the building. What they'll do is they'll save some of the exterior walls to try to give that its foundation as a rehabilitation project versus a completely new construction. So my point is, by rezoning and creating a multifamily site with HUD housing, I didn't get any pushback at planning. Nobody showed up for that. Nobody showed up for that.
Nobody
So now we're talking about it. Nobody seems concerned about multifamily or apartment. What we're really concerned about, what came out in that meeting over and over and over, was the phrase "those people." Those people. We don't want those people in our community. And I'm here to tell you that regardless of what we do with this building, you're gonna get those people.
So you're threatening.
I'm telling you the facts. I'm just telling you the facts.
So that's what you should take to the planning council in
That's
front of
exactly-
everybody, is say, I'm gonna do it come hell or high water unless
No,
I
actually I
fight to
won't.
rezone it.
I won't.
You just said you're gonna do
No,
it.
that's what I'm pursuing. I would really like to rezone it. I would really like to make it a positive thing in the community. I would really like to give back. But it can stay an empty building.
Kelly, who's the HUD supervisor for Lake County? Who's the Klamath housing person here in Lakeview right now?
Or Diana Ortero is the team member.
It's time the housing authority, yeah.
Planet Housing.
Do you know how hard it is to get a hold of her?
I don't
I've
know,
talked
and
to
I'm
her.
tired of arguing with you. We
I don't
presented
have a
the facts, you do what
These
you
are
want
the
with
people
it.
you're putting in charge. I just
Yes.
want this person's record.
Yep.
I know it, I was just asking you if you did.
Right, I do, we know her quite well.
I don't know about getting hold of her.
So Kelly, thank you, because I learned a lot right there.
Thank you.
Seeing that there was a thought of 8 units, I knew about the planning meeting, I did not go because I didn't understand that multifamily meant 15 units. I thought multifamily was 2 units or 4 units. I don't think anybody realized that the hope was for 15.
15.
I think 8 is more palatable. And I'm just wondering, if you went with the 8, the option of the 8, would you necessarily, and it's up to you, but you know, you can, I have a rental or 2, I have a few, and so I get to choose my tenants and I get to choose whether I wanna go after HUD funding or not. But part of choosing my tenants is doing background checks on them. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, so that I know that they have good income and that they're gonna be able to make their rent. And 2, I don't want problems, and so I do background checks on everybody. And so what about, and I follow the multifamily Northwest housing guidelines, which is a big entity that landlords use, and they do these background checks and they have criteria. And I'm just wondering, since you brought up the 8, what about if you did 8 and you followed the multifamily Northwest guidelines for tenants?
Do you wanna poll the room and see how that flies?
I don't know, I mean, I'm just saying, it's
So the
Might be
cost of the live-in caregiver is then divided in half, or it costs twice as much per tenant, correct?
live-in caregiver for what?
Well, she's saying don't go that
Don't
route.
go that
She's
route,
saying,
no.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's saying this is all,
the idea is, we're gonna live with this problem.
That's not, Eric, we're not saying that. What we're saying is the location sucks. That's
No,
it.
I would love to have another location.
I mean,
I
we'll
have
help
until
you.
December to find a new location.
There are people in this room that will help you.
Well, then why
Work
don't
the city, work the county. We were made aware of this Friday before last, and it wasn't presented in a fashion that was palatable to any of us. And
I'm more than happy to work with anybody.
And the property owner standing up and saying you're gonna take it whether you want it or not isn't helping even further.
that is not what I said.
That's not exactly what they said, but anyway, I get that, I'm not gonna engage in the argument.
Right.
But the point is, I will work with you. You wanna come up with a solution, I have till December to put a working solution together. That's it.
There's not a chunk of county property
I was
somewhere.
offered a portion by the sewer pond.
Perfect.
It's got
Yes.
water, it has electricity.
You know, and again, that's an area, but when we're looking at integrating people back into a community, the idea is changing the community. Sending them away to some other place.
That's not some other place. I mean,
It's
it's
still
on a
within
border,
one
it's on an
municipality.
edge, you don't have to, I
And then-
mean,
And then we
you're
can base them on
sticking
their
it right
character.
in the middle of, I mean, you could go out just a little ways. I mean, there's a ton of county land around this place.
I haven't been, I did talk with county, James and I did sit down and we did talk about this, Brad and I sat down and talked with this and looked at possible options for this. There weren't a lot of options out there. I mean, it seems like we could just go anywhere, but there isn't a lot of options around this. James and I did look, we did talk. And so I did approach it. I've been doing this for 15 years, trying to find a solution. It's all right. I've been very frustrated. I'm okay with being frustrated. It's just I haven't had a lot of help. And so, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I have respect for this whole scenario. I work with youth, and I see a lot of this happen to our young children because their families are in this. So don't get me wrong, I work with those people too.
I know.
My concern is we already, I mean, as a teacher, I see that mental health services are not there when we need them. They're scattered, I mean, there's not enough people to go around for what we need. So is this bringing in more support for that? Because I feel like if this is gonna be there, then we're gonna need
The
that
case
support.
manager is going to be a mental health professional, be able to do trauma-informed care, be able to de-escalate situations. We already did, we are hiring more, we do have a mobile crisis interventionist now. We didn't have that before. We are gonna be able to get some peer support specialists, and we can offer them a place in the apartments that would then be able to give more on-site supervision, so
So
peer
it
support
is bringing
specialists.
in some.
It is bringing in more mental health professionals. We do need more. We need an army.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
concerned
I
about,
mean,
is that
I'm all
there's
about
not
that.
enough for this on top of the problems we already have.
On top of that, yes. And so yes, it's actually targeting our problems and working on those. Yes.
Huge.
Dr. Stewart, yes.
Okay, I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm not saying I'm against it. I've been one of those people, I've worked around those people, and I'm with those people all the time. All right? I know where they're coming from, at least some of them, all right? I've been looking this up, I found a great website, gave me lots of great information, it said up to 30% of their income to pay towards this housing, not to exceed 50% for total housing costs. That's what it's part of, HUD's part of this thing. When they talk about choices, it also includes accountability. You make a choice, you got a consequence, exactly.
You do.
The consequence is either good or bad. That goes with whether you choose to, if you stop using and drinking and whatnot, you've made a choice. And now you've got more choices. That's what we're trying to do here, get more choices. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with the area where they're putting it in, I'm not saying I'm disagreeing. What I am saying is, there's a lot of stuff out there. I've looked it up, I spent hours researching this stuff, printed out a few things, did a lot of reading, and I educated myself. I'm a trained peer support specialist, all right? I got hired on, and they let me go. I won't say why, I don't know why. Now, you're talking about this thing, you're worried about, oh my God, they're gonna tear up the place. Well, gee, there's an on-site guy, there are scheduled inspections all the time. They say, hey, we're gonna inspect your place tomorrow at 12. If there's any damage in there, they'll say, hey, so what's not working for you today? What can we do to help you through whatever you're going through because of this damage? And make them responsible, accountable for that damage. You know, and they have to go through a lot before they actually get the eviction notice. Just like a tenant, they have tenant rights. I understand that. I read about it. I'm aware of it. However, they are accountable and they have to work with the specialist that is in the house, in-house, they have to work with everybody to try to work something out. If they can't work it out, then they get the boot. but they have to exhaust all the remedies.
Yeah.
And that's what that part is
But
about.
we do have remedies. I mean, we have all of the
Right.
partner agencies.
Right, we have the agency
That
itself. Right.
can provide that leverage that are already in their life.
And the
That
thing-
part is already in place.
Right, and one of the biggest things is helping this person establish a self-worth. Now, maybe he won't get a job right away, but there's a lot of things we can do to volunteer to help. I did it when I first got back to Lakeview. I volunteered for almost a year. You know what? That got me out in the community, that got me out and known, they noticed what I did. And I still get callbacks like, hey, can you work this summer? I've got a full-time job, but thank you for the opportunity. That's what I did, I put myself out there. I did anywhere from pulling weeds to fucking hay, it didn't matter.
And the core of the problem I get is the location. I just don't have another option. So if you've got options, I wanna hear them. I wanna find out about them. I will research them. I will work with people. You got options, I'm great with it. I just need them.
But the,
So you give me them, I'll work with them.
it's www.csh.org.
Yes.
There's a lot of PDFs, a lot of pages to read, a lot of research to do. There's like 5 different things from putting the shovel in the ground, planting, putting the shovel in the ground, to filling it, to keeping it running. You wanna read all about it, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's all
There's good videos and all sorts of information on
So
it.
Eric, is this a one-time window for this funding? And then it goes away, or can you apply for it down the
Well,
road?
okay, so this window shuts this coming December. If you're looking at the economy before we're gonna have funding available again, you're looking at budget hits for the next 5 to 7 years is a conservative element. They're estimating 5 to 7 years before our budget gets to a place where we're gonna have any money. So, is this a window? Yes. Do we have a limited time frame? Yes. It'll come back around because it's a proven solution and Oregon State Legislature believes in it and it's proven. 5 to 7 years from now, yes, there might be a window. I'm
Okay.
betting there would be.
Follow-up question on that
Yeah.
is, you said 75% success rate,
Yes,
you just said it's proven,
yeah.
okay? How come more of these aren't springing up all over the state?
Oh, they are actually.
They are.
We have 10 started right now.
Okay, but drug rehab, we have to haul them all the way to Baker
Tell
City
me about it, I know.
or Ontario.
Yeah,
Okay, and one other thing,
we do.
funding's gonna come from the state. You can't say that it's only gonna be Lakeview or Lake County people.
But
The
we get-
state's gonna say, our money, the state's money is invested in that. You will get who we say you'll get.
Yes and no. There are some advantages to that. Having an LLC, so a private ownership, does have some of the benefits of being able to screen out. And permanent supportive housing is not the same as government housing. It isn't the same because it's a different model than they've used before. And so we do get to screen out some of those people. So the idea is that we are screening for best possible outcomes and giving them that stability so that they then go out into the community and become functioning citizens.
Okay, but, and then the other thing is, you're talking stability, okay? With this COVID-19, look at how many businesses in this town have had to shut their doors,
Yes.
and it's permanent. So how are these people gonna end up finding, a stable income? You know, I mean,
Well, no, that is no. That'd be
From,
true.
people that aren't even in that system that you're talking about
Yes.
are looking for jobs. And you said, yes, that's a vicious cycle. Okay, well, another similar vicious cycle is the criminal justice system.
Yes.
I mean, we just read in the paper about the one guy that Trooper Hargis got. He ran from him, he hit a car, all this and that stuff. And what does he get? He gets a slap on the wrist,
I know.
time served, and all that stuff. So,
And he's back in the community. I mean, I get that it's back in the community. The idea is back in the community until we do something about it. Yeah.
I just, the passion opposing those people, it's legit.
Yeah,
But the other thing is you have a passion for these people. You also, everybody has a passion for, homelessness isn't just a criminal or a drug. Lake County suffers huge and it's children's and families. In your dealing, it talks about women and children. This is not gonna aid women and children unless, maybe a recovered somebody eventually could possibly have a better outcome, a more positive influence on his family. But this doesn't serve women and children. It won't serve someone trying to get their kid back.
yeah, it could actually,
Government
we do
stipulations
have-
that your housing is a big part of.
We do have women in the system, one of the people coming back from rehab is female. And we're looking for a solution to find that person a place to live. And so, yeah.
So it's gonna be
It's not a male apartment, it's not a male or female apartment, it's an apartment complex.
So families, so like a single mother with a child and pregnant.
Right, it would be a studio apartment, a small apartment, but it would be suitable for a single
And you would feel
mom.
comfortable with her in that environment.
Well, because she's in that environment, exactly why sex offenders cannot do it.
Exactly.
People who have impulse control are addicts and mentally ill. Anything could lead to anything. I'm just asking if it was your daughter, would you feel comfortable putting her and your granddaughter in that situation?
If I had a daughter in this cycle who had been through jail, who had been through the mental health rehab, who was trying to better her life, you're darn right I'd want her in this.
Why not with you at your home?
Oh, I put her in my home, I guess I
Yeah,
would, that's what I would.
okay.
Because I have a home and I have a place to do that.
Right.
But if I didn't, and I had a daughter in this cycle, you bet I would want her in this.
And you wouldn't think it would play a role in a relapse or, you said in your information, these people are not mandated to drug test. They can be using, they can be producing, they can be doing anything they want to if they're sneaky enough, which we know
So
they are sneaky enough. But I'm just saying, if it was your kid, wouldn't you want to eliminate the risk factors for a relapse or for the potential of a violent crime or a property crime, if you could?
in the current cycle, there is no elimination of that. At least with supervision in a secure environment, it limits the risk to a significant portion. There's no elimination of risk. That's an illusion. The idea is that there's risk either way. Would I want on-site supervision in a secure environment, in a structured environment with safety and security in her own apartment? Yes. Would I want her on the street trying to find a place, engaging in relational negotiations? No. But that's what's currently happening. It is what's currently happening because.
Why, like?
You had a question. Let's get her first because you asked.
Okay, you've got on-site supervision for the people that are in there,
Yes.
but is that on-site supervision going to control their previous relationships coming in and
Right,
out that
right.
are going to bring in whatever they had available to them on the outside?
It's a secure environment and it's like any other apartment complex in that you have some measure of control. The difference is in a regular apartment complex, the owner isn't living there. In this apartment complex, there's on-site and that controls that flow, that there is behavioral accountability. Yes, someone could come and visit like anybody else in any other apartment complex. Can they create a problem? Not without an on-site knowing about it and not without the relational accountability. That's the consequences of making the behavioral
But they can't
choice.
guarantee that they're not going to bring in whatever they had available to them on the street.
No, I can't guarantee that for anybody, whether it's now or in anything. People have,
So at any time, because it's,
at any time, it can happen anywhere. We see that all over our town.
well, I understand.
I mean,
But
this is
there's no-
at least offering the on-site accountability and responsibility to people that are being encouraged and motivated to change their lives for the better. Is there going to be temptation? Of course there is. That's everywhere. And again, we have that. This is different in that it gives them the hope of having the stability and the security and that face-to-face contact. That's what the on-site case management is all about. That's the accountability. So it does limit the risk. It doesn't eliminate the risk. That's the whole point. We limit as much as I can't keep people from doing dumb things. I haven't been able to do that my entire life. What I can do is I can give them other options. And this gives them other options. And when they have their own place, they can say no. And it's theirs. Yes, Teresa.
So just
yeah.
springboarding off when they have their own place.
Yes.
What is the motivation? They're living in a nice new apartment complex. I don't know what's 30% of the rent? Or I guess 30% of their income. If they make $1,000 a month, their rent's $300 maybe. So they're living in this beautiful new place. It's like HUD. You never have to get off it. So what's their motivation to move out and say rent a house from me for $700 a month?
Well, that's true. The idea that it is human to want to better yourself, that there is an internal component that we can feed, and that is the desire to be better. And that, again, working with the people that I work with on a regular basis, it's an internal hurt often enough that they have experienced trauma, that they have been used and abused and traumatized, and the chance to make their life better, to give them that hope, as long as we don't extinguish the hope that they can have a good life, that keeps them going a lot longer than the rules that say you have to. It's positive reinforcement rather than the negative threat that makes the long-term behavioral changes that we're looking for.
But if that's true, Eric, why do so many people stay on HUD forever?
That I don't know. Because again, HUD doesn't have this as a component. HUD doesn't have the relational engagement. HUD doesn't have the supportive services, the wraparound case management. HUD doesn't have any of that. HUD just gives you a home.
Right.
And that's all, it stops there.
And
It
so-
doesn't change lives.
But the motivation to get off of the system and out of this housing has to come from within that person.
Right.
Is that what you're telling me?
It does come from within.
And I think that's a lovely idea. If we could bottle it and give it to everybody that's on government assisted housing, wouldn't that be fabulous? Everybody would be living on their own, buying houses, having jobs. But the reality is a lot of people do not get off government assistance, whether it's
I agree with
housing
that.
or whatever. And that then trickles down to us.
Yeah, no, actually, you're absolutely correct. They do stay on the government programs, and the government programs do not have the components of permanent supportive housing, which is that accountability, which is that engagement, which is that always active people in their lives and their job. HUD doesn't have that component.
Again, we're back to what is the motivation? It has to come from within. And I'm hoping what you say is true, but I don't see it out there amongst the general public.
No, actually, a lot of people, I don't find this among the general public either. Most of my work is done among the miserable, the unhappy. That's just what I do. They don't call me for the good news because people who are good don't generally want to change. The notion is that they're happy where they are and it's functional and it's acceptable and they found a network of support. Then they stop changing.
Right.
What motivates changing is emotional pain, in all honesty. Emptiness of life. My life isn't going anywhere. I'm not having purpose or meaning in my life. My relationships are terrible. I'm being used or using. I'm a bad person. Not having any hope for the future. Not having forgiveness for the past. Those kind of issues on being unable to let go of their trauma. That kind of stuff is what makes people miserable. That's when I get involved. And that does motivate people to change. I tap into that. But before that, I don't get a lot of traction. Sorry. So these people are generally unhappy, and they're ones I work with. And I can motivate them. And they're very, very powerfully motivated to not be unhappy.
If you would be the case manager, I think we'd be happy. No, well, I shouldn't say we'd be happy.
No, we wouldn't be happy.
You'd be a great case manager.
I would be a great case manager, and I will be supporting that as far as it goes. But the real answer is that those are learned skills. I have learned them. I have been to classes. I have studied. Those are all learned skills, and anyone can learn them. I know the classes, and it'll be part of the training that someone would go through. Yes?
My question is, Kelly showed the diagram of the 8 units.
Of 8 units, yeah.
And I thought that looked real good, 8 units, all right, apartment manager, all right.
No apartment manager.
No. That one does not, the 8 units doesn't have an apartment. That one's just a, that one's
So
just a
that
house.
was my question then,
Yeah.
is why, because the lot size is the same as my house lot size, and I'm going, I can't imagine 18 cars, 9 cars, 18
Yeah.
people plus
Most
spouses, you
people
gotta
are
be
like-
kidding, on the size of my house lot.
They don't have cars.
They don't have cars. Well, they said sleep with their cars, you know, they get a place to live down with their cars.
We did the most, that the average are not driving.
Well, what determines the 18 units?
Actually, 2 stories about, and we did the calculation on the space utilization for a studio apartment. The honest notion, you want it small enough to be safe, but too small to be comfortable. The idea is it's safe, and it's, it also includes open space for the community, it also includes a lot of things functionally that make this a success and targeted for a success.
Is there a diagram, do you have a picture?
We have an architect that has not given us some diagrams yet. We have some theoretical pictures.
It's just like it's a $25,000 architect charge, so
Yeah.
we've gotta go through this step by step. You can't just create renderings so that everybody can look at them and.
Right. And we will, that's part of the process, part of the journey. We'll have diagrams, we'll have all that stuff.
I mean, because the reality, I was faced with it, because when my neighbor told me, oh yeah, he was approached in August, you know, and I was like, oh my God, thank God you said no. And now, so I feel for the people that are gonna be across the street, because my instant reaction when he told me was absolute fear, like, I'm moving, that's it, yeah.
Well, and I believe that one was targeted for an Oxford House.
Rehabilitation.
It's a clean and sober living. It's a clean and sober living. It's a specialized kind.
Be, like, I don't know how to say this, but is there gonna be a curfew, so it's not like people coming in at all hours of the night? Is there gonna be like, okay, let's shut it down at 10 o'clock at night unless you work the 3rd shift? Or
Best practices, the residents set their own curfew. And what they set as a curfew is usually 2 hours later than we would set.
Okay.
2 hours earlier than we would set. The reason is because they know they need safety. And they want to shut it down. They shut down visitors, they shut down noise, they shut down everything because they know they need the safety. It's not required, but they actually set their own curfew for the building. We don't do that, they do. What we do is we hold them accountable to the behaviors that we would put in the lease. And that's a pretty standard lease of behavioral modification. We don't allow these behaviors in this apartment complex. So yes, they set their own, but it's also their ability to have the freedom to set their own. And
I
then
just
work
wish
with
it could be smaller so we can like give it a try and see how it works. And then when the next 5-year funding rolls around, they can build the one someplace else if it's successful. That seems like 18, that's a lot.
Would people be more willing and like, I don't know if it's an option, but would people be more accepting of this if it was like a single mother's young children type of situation? Would people be more like willing and accepting of that because it is in a family environment, and it will be single mothers that don't have spouses, that don't have baby daddies, or what have you, that have the case manager to help the moms get, would that be
That
like
would be
a lot
there is actually a model for single moms and targeting moms,
Would that be
especially
more
in the first year
acceptable
of
to
pregnancy.
everybody?
But-
And
But then that
Is that
doesn't
an
address the
option?
home.
Doesn't address the
It
whole
doesn't
problem.
help.
It
Get
doesn't
the
help the problem.
agencies involved and get
Yeah.
to speak to the needs.
So there you go, that back there. Go ahead.
Okay, so,
I saw a lot.
so you addressed the female in
I'm not
a facility.
Yeah.
In the documentation, it says also veterans.
Yeah.
PTSD suffering veterans. Is it conducive to have drug offenders and, I know it's stereotypical,
Right.
but a lot of military people have no tolerance for crap. Addicts, tweakers. I mean,
It depends on the veteran, you
it's
know,
like, it seems like a dorm with good management is what it sounds like. But the
it's not
conflict
a
could be
dorm.
there.
in that it's a full
Law
apartment
enforcement could be
building.
brought frequently because of the dynamics of the situation. I mean, kumbaya is great and all, but the reality of it is even your tenants are gonna be in opposition of one another, correct?
No, generally no. The idea is when you've gotten low, then when you look around you, those are the people you understand. And again, these are people that understand one another typically. And yes, what you have is people that are working on changing their lives, and then you bring someone else into that, and you surround them by people who are working on changing their lives.
So they have
There is
no
a certain
judgment.
amount of peer pressure to that, plus the case management, plus the rest of the team that is working on them, solving their issues and working to change their lives. Yes, there's a fair amount of positive reinforcement to deal with these problems and the engagement on a regular basis to work through your problems. Part of the idea is learning how to work with other people. We don't just let people stay the same.
They're not required.
They're not required to change, but in an environment that is conducive to change, it's hard not to change. James?
Yeah, are you gonna have another one of these meetings?
Yes, I'm gonna have one in about 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, I just
Well,
wanna-
I was gonna have it next week, but I can't have it next week because it's a planning commission meeting. And so having it next week doesn't work, so we'll have it the week after, and I'll have another one.
Same
Because we're
time,
at
same
6:47
time,
and we're almost at 7 o'clock.
Are you sure planning commission is next week?
That's what I was told.
Okay.
Thought it was July 13th, I think. is
Oh.
when
I didn't get that notice.
Yeah.
Oops.
We
All right.
can read this until then.
Okay, well, we can do this next week, I think. I'll have to check my schedule. If I have your emails, I will put a notice to you directly that we'll be having another meeting, when, where, and how. And we can keep going in this, and I will have different information on meeting 2 as we walk through this.
So is this gonna come down to, because is it gonna be voted on by the people of Lakeview or?
Actually, the process is we've applied for zoning change. The planning commission has reviewed the application once. They have gone through their process, they said it was good, and they made their recommendation to the town hall. The town council then remanded it back to the planning commission, saying, no, we need to hear the public. So there's a process that we are following to rezone. That is the process of just zone change. Yeah.
Real quick, so anyway, this has been kind of the beginning
Yes.
of a lot of the public conversation. We have been having these meetings for about a year now, talking about what it is we want to do, because all those issues up there, that wasn't something that we just threw together.
No.
A lot of this came from identifying a problem, having meetings up in the jury room actually,
Yeah.
early last year, with the sheriff, with the DA, with the judge, with all the different partners together in the same room, where we discussed on the mental health side. We'll get to you, Stuart, and say, are you have a question for me, or?
No.
Yeah, I'll get you after James is done. Because yes, I was part of those meetings.
Right, correct, you were there. So this has been the structure, is to find a solution to some of the problems that we're seeing. Having these people cycle through our jail and not being able to treat them, because jail is not the appropriate place to treat people with mental health issues. And seeing those frequent flyers flying through all these different services, our emergency room is another place, right there, down there, with the jail and the hospital. That's where we're running into those people, and we're not able to help them in the way that we really should be able to as a community. So trying to find the right place to put them so we're not constantly seeing the same people, because it's costing us a lot in tax dollars to be able to provide the same services, the same people again and again and again. So once this team, I stepped out sometime in the fall when the McGarvis came forward with this property. And I stepped out and started working on some other things. We had a lot of stuff on our plate at the time. But the county was supportive of whatever they could find that would be a solution going forward. The property that came forward on McGarvis, we thought, well, it sounded like a really good deal at the time. So none of the other properties that we were looking at were really working out. We looked at Upatrola, we looked at the site out on the other side of the ball fields. We were looking at a lot of different options on the table. Everything was on the table at that time. McGarvis had come forward really graciously with a piece of property that they thought would be suitable. The community obviously has some problems with that location. And they're going to go through this process of rezoning, trying to find out if that property is still conducive for the project that we have in mind to try and solve this issue in our community. It's not a warming shelter. It's not something to just keep these people out on the street. It's trying to find a way to help those we actually can help. There will be those we can't. So maybe there's some room for discussion in the community as these guys go forward with this, because I think the McGarvis want this as well. We want to try and find what it is that we're missing. That's why they're coming to you guys and doing these community meetings, be able to find what it is that we can do better, try and figure out a more proper and a more workable screening process to make sure that we're bringing in those people that are actually people we can help. So I really appreciate the fact that all you guys came back. We did have a lot of discussion over whether or not anyone would even show up to tonight's meeting. There's going to be another one on Tuesday. Going forward, we could use some help. These things, there was articles in the newspaper back in January of last year. There were articles in the newspaper all the way through the year that Christy Allison and Arvinder and Eric, you guys have all been working on this stuff for a long time. And now we've got a site, and I'm really glad actually that it's generated some interest in the community to identify the fact that this is a real problem. And it's not just in Lakeview, it's across the whole county. It's true. But in Lakeview, it is very noticeable because that urban growth boundary has a lot of people in it and a lot of people with need. So I really appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to come out and talk about this and see if you can find solutions with them. I think the McGarvis actually loves to have some input and help through this project. I know Eric would love to hear you guys. So I just want to remind everyone to try and be respectful going forward. Try and work together as a team because we are a community. And these people that we keep talking about, they are here, they will be here, and they will continue to be here. We just need to find the best way to help them get back on their feet if they can, and if they can't, maybe we just have to accept the fact we can't help everyone.
And I'll finish with Stuart because I've got 7 minutes and I want to finish on time at 7 o'clock. So go ahead.
Just take it real quick. About a year and a half ago, when I was working in a different capacity, I identified this as a problem. And I did a lot of research, getting ready to present it. I ended up having to go into a different field. But at that time, I took that information that I had started with to the commissioners, because I identified the problem, I took it up to them and I said, hey, here's some ideas, here's a link, here's some information to start with and run with it. And it outlines everything that we would need to not only have identified the problem, how to work with the problem, but I don't have the mighty pen or the knowledge or the skill to follow it through, whereas I knew up higher somebody else did. And so I pushed that out towards them. And the other thing I was looking at is, I think this is a good idea. It's better in Section 8 housing where there's no supervision at all, period. And I hear a lot of things about cops being called to different areas a lot. and I watch things that are going on, and it's just like, okay, I know there's the problems that are here. That looks like a good start. A recovery home, that'd be even a better one, but, well, I guess we just have to start with something small and work up.
Well,
Thank you.
and so I wanna make sure that you understand, I will work with anybody. You got a solution, I'm open to working with a solution. I have until December to submit a new application. That's it. So you got a possible, I'm willing to hear it. We have another meeting, and if you wanna be a part of the team, I would love to have you on the team. Make sure your email is there. I will put you on my email list so that you get the latest meeting and the new updates as we go along. Stay informed. I will try to find another meeting time and day so that we can keep going on the conversation. Okay? It is now 6:56. I am finished.